What's up, guys? So, wanted to talk about a good subject today about overtraining. I got asked a question the other day about overtraining, and I wanted to, I guess, give my opinion on it and, break it down. I feel like, does overtraining exist? Absolutely, it does exist. But I'll be honest, I don't think the majority of people overtrain. I think the majority of people that think they're overtraining are most likely delusional. Just my opinion. I think that for sure overtraining exists. I think I've overtrained quite a bit at times, and it can be very bad. I feel like it's cost me some surgeries. I've had 5 total surgeries throughout my fighting career, and I do think probably 3 of them were from overtraining. But I also think that the majority of people don't overtrain. I know people that think they overtrain and they don't understand how to just deal with being tired. I think that very few people overtrain. Maybe the high level pros do, but the majority of amateurs, the majority of lower level pros, they probably undertrain, to be honest with you, especially in certain aspects of training, like drilling. Let's say you came in and you overtrained, and your body, you can't go hard every day. This is true. You can't go hard every day. You can't, if you're doing 2 practices in one day, they can't always be hard. But a lot of people think because you're not going hard, you shouldn't just that you shouldn't come to the gym at all. That resting your body is important enough to not come to practice. Well, that's not true. The truth would be, if you're overtraining, let's say maybe you sparred super hard one morning, and then at nighttime your body's hurting, you really don't feel like training, well come drill. You can always drill jiu-jitsu, you can always drill wrestling, you can always drill even striking. Work your defense. There's specific stuff you can constantly train and do to working around your injuries and working around overtraining and making sure you don't overtrain. So realistically, the majority of people, I don't think they understand the level that someone like a UFC fighter, their conditioning level can get to. When I was on the Ultimate Fighter, this is when I first learned this. We trained harder than I'd ever trained before. I got to the Ultimate Fighter 2012, and when I got there, that was the first time I ever got to train full time in my life. We were the only live season in history, so we were there for 3 months. And before that point, I'd always had a full-time job, and it was the first time I'd ever got to train full-time. And then I saw the difference. There's like a certain level you can get to when you're an amateur. Then when you go pro, it's another level. When you get to the UFC, it's a completely another level, right? And I saw that level, and once you go push yourself to that point, you're never going to accept mediocre training again. You're never going to accept going back to shit training, basically. So I think a lot of people need to learn how to push their body and see what they can go to, and then they're never going to accept going back to that mediocre training. And I think a lot of people's threshold on how far they can push their body is actually way farther than it's way further than they believe it is. And it's important to test it. And then if you do feel your body, breaking down, and you're overtraining and you're worried about injury, then come in and drill. Even if it's for a full week, come in. I used to have a friend of mine named Levi. He's a good black belt here in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we would meet up and we would drill 2.5 hours of just drilling, jiu-jitsu and wrestling. We wouldn't do any live rolls at all sometimes. Probably a good half the time we drilled. 2.5 hours of just different stuff, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, cage defense, cage offense, just different techniques, constantly drilling. If your body is tired from going super hard for a few days in a row, you can always drill this. So there's always something you can do. So yes, overtraining does exist, but very few people realistically do it. And a lot of people are honestly delusional about how hard you can push your body. So you got to find a balance. But just because you're sore and beat up doesn't mean you shouldn't come to practice. You should come and drill and do techniques, because if you're not willing to, and you say, "Oh, I'm too tired, I need to rest," guess what? Someone's in there drilling. Someone's in there doing, 200 reps of the same move in one practice even. They're doing the same, whether let's say it's a jiu-jitsu move. Somebody's in there coming in, okay, we're going to work 3 different submissions, and we're going to drill each one of them for an hour apiece. There's people who will meet up and drill for 2 hours straight and get those reps. So it's not a matter of overtraining, it's a matter of smart training. You have to balance it out, but you can't just be taking off practice because you think you're overtraining. Do something easy, do something not non-resistant on your body, but there's always something you can do, guys. So the majority of people don't overtrain. The majority of people really are just delusional, need to, figure out different ways to train, but still get your work in. Just my thoughts. Let me know what you think.